I'm David Rives, host of Wonders Without Number. In each episode, we talk about breaking discoveries in science, which reveal that our Creator, the God of the Bible, has left a pattern of His fingerprints throughout the universe. Check out our other resources at davidrives.com. Sign up for email updates to have encouraging nuggets sent straight to your inbox. Subscribe to our free monthly magazine and like us on Facebook for daily inspiration and education regarding science and the Bible. Did you know that God placed big magnets in the sky? That's right, they're all over our solar system, and they're pointing us back to the biblical record. Find out how they do that on Wonders Without Number. Welcome to Wonders Without Number. I'm David Rives, and today we want to inform and inspire you regarding the wonders we find all around us. An infinite number of wonders that point us directly to our Creator, the God of the Bible. Now, you're no accident. I want you to know that you are special, that you were created in God's own image, that Jesus Christ was and is that Creator, and that He has a plan for your life. Now, thousands of years before man had the capability of exploring the deep ocean floor, the words of Scripture describe springs in the depth of the sea. Now, there's no way that mere men could have known that. Let's take a look right now. Did God foretell of a wonder in the natural world that could only have been known by divine insight? In Job 38:16, the Creator asks Job, "Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, or hast thou walked in the search of the depth?" Does the Bible know best? Well, in modern times, we have charted the depths of the sea very accurately, but this took scientific ingenuity and extensive exploration. Certainly, Job had never walked on the bottoms of the oceans. Yet we now know that there are hot springs, or hydrothermal vents in the deep sea that actually contain diverse life. So how was an ancient writer able to predict this? Could simple men just have written a collection of stories with such accuracy? Or did the God of Abraham actually speak to man, giving him insight into the sciences? It certainly seems more than coincidental that we would read about springs in the deep, only to later discover springs in the deep. Even this has been stripped of God, though, with some proposing that these hydrothermal vents are where life originated spontaneously and began their upward evolutionary climb to complexity. We're warned that there would be those who worshiped created things more than their Creator. Romans 1:22 says, "Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools." I'm David Rives. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God. Today, some people have come up with cosmologies, attempting to explain how the universe was formed. But some of them are unbelievably absurd. You know, creationists scientists also have theories. We can form hypotheses and we can test those. Using research based on scriptural understanding, could we predict what future space probes might find? Well, today we have with us Dr. Russ Humphreys, who will look at magnetic fields throughout our solar system. They're pointing to a young universe, purposefully made, not billions of years of chance. Now, Dr. Humphreys received his Bachelor of Science degree in physics at Duke University and his PhD from LSU. While working on his dissertation there, he committed his life to Christ and, based on biblical and scientific evidence, concluded that the creation account we read in the Bible is not only true, but scientifically accurate. Now, he's received numerous awards for excellence in the field of nuclear physics, and at General Electric's High Voltage Laboratory, he served as a research scientist. Dr. Humphreys also serves on the board of the Creation Research Society. So join with me now as we meet my friend, Dr. Russell Humphreys. Welcome to the program.
Oh, glad to be here again.
It is great to have you here, and we appreciate your research so much. Now, you're based out of the Chattanooga area, is that right?
Right.
And you were able to drive up this morning to be with us, and such a blessing to have you here because I love your research on cosmology, number one, because that's one of my passions, but also the predictive power, which I think is so special. Can you just share a short story? Give us a brief summary of what we're going to learn today and how you came about this research.
Well, I was working for General Electric and looking at large power transformers being assembled on my lunch break. And I was pondering scripture in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 5, where in the New American Standard Version it says, He formed the earth out of water and by means of water. And that gave me an idea on how He may have started up the Earth's magnetic field. A few years later, I published a theory, and I applied the same theory to all the planets and the sun and the moon, big bodies in the solar system, and it explained their past and present fields also. So I've been having a lot of fun with this because our space probes had not visited all parts of the solar system. And so I was able to predict the strength of the magnetic fields that the space probes should find when they visited, for example, the planets Uranus and the planet Neptune. And the predictions came out accurately. So there are about 5 or 6 basic features of the magnetic fields in the solar system that I was able to predict before they were found. They've all been found now. So that's the measure of a good theory. If it goes out on a limb, makes predictions, and those predictions then come true, that's an indication that the basic assumptions of this theory are true. And the basic assumption in this theory was that the biblical account of creation and the time scale of 6,000 years is accurate.
That is incredible.
It's been fun.
That is incredible. Okay, well, I cannot wait to dive into some of the research, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's just see how far we can get today.
Okay. Well, God has big magnets in the sky. Now, as I was implying a little while ago, God did something surprising. I think He used water to make the magnetic fields in the cosmos. Now, a magnetic field is what makes your compass needle turn north. It has nothing to do with gravity, but it has everything to do with little magnets and compasses, etc.
Okay.
So this theory explains the magnetic fields of planets, stars like our own sun.
Okay.
And why does it work? It's because the hydrogen nuclei, you've heard of H2O, the H is the hydrogen.
Okay.
And here's a hydrogen, a water molecule with oxygen, hydrogen. And at the center of each of these atoms is a nucleus.
Okay.
You have an oxygen nucleus, you have a little spinning proton. It's a little spinning ball of electric charge.
The basic element. Yes.
And most people don't know this, but the spinning protons have tiny little magnetic fields.
Really?
If you're spinning an electric charge, you make a magnetic field, and physicists know exactly how much field each proton makes. But the nice thing about hydrogen nuclei in the water molecule is that these can spin around fairly easy. They're like, think of them as being on spinning gyroscopes on gimbals or something.
Oh, okay.
They can point in different directions.
Okay.
So the water molecule is slightly magnetic.
Because of these hydrogens.
Because of these hydrogens.
Okay.
And if you line up all of the nuclei, the field depends on the hydrogen nuclei direction. So normally you don't think of water as being a magnetic substance. But if God, when He created the initial water with which it looks like He made everything, darkness was on the face of the deep, the Spirit of God was moving on the face of the waters. When He made that water, created it, if He made those nuclei of hydrogen all spinning in the same direction, then you'll get a fairly substantial magnetic field. So my suggestion, my theory says that God formed Earth from created water. That's based on 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 5. The Earth was formed out of water and by water. So water was very important in the initial creation.
Okay.
And here I'm showing all the little hydrogen nuclei all pointing in the same direction.
Which is creating a unified magnetic field.
Yes,
Okay.
a big magnetic field, a globally sized
Okay.
magnetic field. And so if all the hydrogen nuclei were lined up, then that will make a large magnetic field, 7.9 Gauss. I could put more numbers after the decimal place if you wanted. That is a substantial field. Now, right now, the Earth's magnetic field is where we are, is about half a Gauss.
Okay.
So this is roughly 16 times more field at the poles of the Earth than we have at the equator.
Okay.
Or let's put it another way. It's 8 times more field than we have at the poles, almost. Anyhow.
Now, does this have to do with the decay rate of magnetic fields?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because when he created the field, that's not the field we have today. Something's happened to that field.
Okay.
So,
time has passed and other things have happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the first thing that would happen is all those molecules would collide with each other, and it would disorient the nuclear spins, the proton spins. And that would start an electric current in the water. Just the ordinary laws of electricity and magnetism say that within seconds you'd get an electric current going around within that water, and the water would be fairly hot under high pressure at the interior, so it's a good conductor there. And this current would be about 250 billion amperes.
Wow.
Right now, you'll see that it's 6 billion amperes. So this would preserve the magnetic field for the first few seconds.
Okay.
Then something else happens. God transformed on the third day of creation. He said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together and let the
dry land appear.
Let the dry land appear. And so he made the earth. Somehow he took what was there, which was mostly water, and made it into the solid material of which we now exist.
Okay.
That's actually a miraculous thing. But it would preserve that magnetic field according to the laws of electricity and magnetism. So we'd get that same current circulating in a smaller region within the Earth's core.
Okay.
So the total field would stay about the same, but the current would then begin running down like a flywheel runs down.
Oh.
Because in the core of the Earth, it's not a perfect conductor. It has electrical resistance, like all materials except superconductors.
Okay.
And we know it's not a superconductor because it's not very cold in the core. It's actually very hot.
Uh-huh.
So that will wear down the electric current just like friction slows down a flywheel, a spinning flywheel. So here's a graph. Some of you are afraid of graphs, but this one is fairly straightforward. This is electric current in billions of amperes here.
Okay.
And this is time in years from creation to now, 6,000 years later.
Okay.
And this is what the laws of electricity and magnetism, for the resistance that we know is in the core, would predict. 250 billion amperes to begin with, decay half-life of 1,100 years.
That's
Every
calculable.
1,100 years, you have half as much magnetic field or electric current as before.
Okay.
So there's about 6 of those 11,000 year periods, and you would have the 250 billion amperes becoming the 6 billion amperes, which we know from our measurements is roughly the current and the magnetic that makes the Earth's magnetic field in the core right now.
Okay, so Earth has a magnetic field surrounding it. That magnetic field is running down, is produced by the current, but it is running down at a measurable rate.
That's right.
And if you measure the half-life of the decay of the magnetic field, then we can determine what it would have looked like over time. And you start out with this calculation, you end up precisely with what we have today.
Yes, we don't know the resistance exactly in the core, but you get something like this happening theoretically.
Okay.
However, we're not stuck with theory on this.
Hi, I'm David Rives, host of Wonders Without Number. Like what you're seeing? You can find so much more on the Creation Superstore. You'll find over 1,000 books, DVDs, and other quality resources on origin science, creation, and Bible history. Whether you're looking for nature documentaries, educational books, homeschool resources, or children's videos, we've got it all, so be sure to head over and check it out. Use this special promo code to receive 10% off your first order.
One other important thing to think about is that the half-life depends on the conductivity, or the inverse of resistivity, and the radius squared. So what that means is the bigger the size of the core of a planet, the longer the half-life it is, and the slower it decays.
Okay.
That's important when you're thinking about the other planets.
Other planets, right.
So now, but we're not stuck with theory. The Earth's magnetic field is, we've measured it, fading fast. So this is historical measurements from the year 1900 to the year 2010.
Okay.
And this is a fancy word which means the strength of the source of the magnetic field.
Okay.
And you don't need to worry about the units and numbers too much. But what they measure is something that follows that red straight line. That red straight line would be the theoretical
decay of the field, and the black points are actual data points.
Yeah, that's
actual
exactly right.
measured data points.
That's right.
And as you see, of course, there's a tiny bit of variation, but it follows this line.
And I think that I know what made that little wiggle.
Okay.
But the overall average follows that red line.
Yeah.
Nicely.
All right, so this is something we can test and observe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that gives a half-life for the decay of the Earth's field of 1,100 years.
Okay.
So, all right. So on the basis of this theory about how God started up the field, I made some predictions in print in 1984 in the Creation of Planetary Magnetic Fields in the Creation Research Society Quarterly of December 1984, and you can find this at the creationresearch.org. So the prediction back in '84 was that the planet Uranus should have a strong field, and I gave a number, and the planet Neptune after it would have a strong field. Again, I gave a number. Also that Mars's crust should be magnetized. Mars doesn't have a magnetic field to speak of today. But I was thinking that astronauts could visit the crust and take samples and bring it back to Earth.
Yeah.
Well, they did that with a very close orbiting satellite.
Okay.
And they found, I'll tell you what they found.
Okay.
Mercury's field should decay fast.
Yep.
And Mercury's crust should also be magnetized.
All right, let's pause for a second. You're saying these are all predictions that you made?
Yeah. None of those were fact.
Before they were fact?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's 5 different predictions, scientific predictions, based on research that you had done within science, but 100% consistent with what the Bible tells us.
Yes.
Okay.
For several of these, the standard theory based on billions of years, it's called the dynamo theory, was predicting quite different things, like Uranus should have practically no field, and Mercury should have practically no field, and it shouldn't decay, and I'll get to that.
Okay.
So 1986, 2 years later, the planet Uranus was visited by Voyager 2 at Uranus, and the results agreed with what I predicted.
Wow.
What I should say with what the theory said.
Yes.
So the creation theory gave a number, and this number for the strength of the field is a certain value on the order of it, because I didn't know what the core of Uranus was like, so I couldn't make a real accurate prediction. I had to make some guesses.
Right.
But on the order of, that means give or take a factor of 3.
Yeah.
And Voyager measured that number, which was right smack in the middle of the prediction.
Okay.
So the dynamo prediction, the theory that demands billions of years, gave 100,000 times smaller.
The creation theory, based on a biblical model, predicted this. Once the probe finally got to the planet, it came out, I mean, nearly spot on within...
Right, right smack in the middle of the range.
Okay. Whereas evolutionary scientists had come up with this model. Now explain the dynamo. Basically, this is a way to keep a magnetic field active and continuing for billions of years.
Dynamo is the British word for electric generator.
Okay.
And they figured that somehow the spin of the Earth working inside the Earth's electrically conductive core should start up a field and then maintain it for billions of years.
Okay.
And their theory has not worked out very well. They've been trying for 99 years now. And I have a review of this in one of the international conferences on creation. 99 years of failure, a century of failure, I said.
Incredible, okay.
So anyhow, this is one of their failures.
Way off, all right.
So now in 1989, Voyager 2 was at Neptune. The results agreed again with the field that my theory predicted.
Okay.
So the creation theory gave a number about the same as Uranus. And the other side, the dynamo theorists, said, well, since Neptune is sort of a sister planet of Uranus, then it too should have a strong field. So they changed their prediction.
Okay.
You know, they borrowed from what had been measured, let's say.
Right. They're finally learning. Okay.
So, but Voyager measured right in the middle of the range of my prediction.
Extremely close, yes.
So now the score is Dynamo Theory 1 and Humphreys Crazy Theory 2, okay?
All right, I like that.
And ICR.org had an impact article labeled Beyond Neptune that came out about that time. Describes these results.
Nice.
In 2001, Mars' crust turned out to be strongly magnetized. Now this is a map of the surface of Mars found by the Mars Global Surveyor.
Okay.
And it swooped very low over the crust and was able to measure the tiny magnetic fields from individual places at the surface. So the overall global field of Mars is 0, but these little magnetized places were there, and they're from magnetized rock.
Wow.
And actually fairly substantial. This is one polarity. The blue is the opposite polarity. We're back to the first polarity. So it looks like Mars' field reversed itself as this rock was forming.
Okay.
And that's very similar to something on Earth in the Earth's ocean crust, where you see the magnetic stripes, they're called, that are symmetric, roughly, on either side of the mid-ocean ridges that your Springs of the Deep opener talked about.
Okay.
But these stripes are about 10 times stronger than the stripes on the Earth's crust in the ocean floor of the Earth.
And based on your theories, we're not talking about pole reversals, magnetic reversals over billions of years.
Nope.
These are very rapid reversals.
No, this had to happen within the time scale established by the decay of the Earth's magnetic field.
Okay.
And it turns out the decay of all the other planets' magnetic fields.
Okay.
That's thousands of years, not millions.
Wow, all right.
2012, the planet Mercury contrasted the creation and dynamo theories pretty nicely. This is the Messenger space probe orbiting Mercury.
Yes.
Now, the dynamo theories said before 1974, before any space probe had gone, that Mercury should have 0 field. It rotates very slowly, and it's got a small core. And both of these say, their theory says, there shouldn't be any field.
Okay.
Well, Mariner went by in 1974 and then came back in 1975, and they said, oops, Mercury has a field about 1% of what the Earth's field is today, but it's still significant. So the dynamo theory had a problem with their prediction. Now the dynamo theory before 2008 said, well, that small theory that they measured shouldn't be decaying rapidly.
The field that they measured, even though it was small, it should not be rapidly decaying.
No, it should change over millions of years, not decades.
Okay.
Now the creation 1984 said it should be roughly a 5% decay by about 2012.
Yes.
Messenger 2012 gave a 7.8% decay.
Really?
That's within the capability of the theory to explain. So.
Right.
And
so something that you had predicted long before this 2008 article says shouldn't be any decay.
Yeah.
Actually, when they were able to visit, the probe was able to visit in 2012.
Found a very strong
very
decay.
Close. Okay.
So this is very difficult for the dynamo theorists to understand. Now, the dynamo before 2012, there should have been no strong field in the past. It should have always been about as strong as we now measure it.
Okay.
However, in the creation theory was saying that no, in the past the field had to be much stronger. And then the messenger found strong evidence of a strong past field. The crust was magnetized just like Mars was.
Okay.
So the solar system data fit the theory only with biblical conditions. The smaller bodies, you have to have a time scale of 6,000 to 10,000 years.
Wow.
It just won't work. The planets and the sun must start as water.
As water, and we
And
read
then
that
we
he
change the
formed
other stuff.
from the water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So without those two features, the theory shouldn't work, yet it did work. So the silicon, oxygen, calcium, iron, there's too little field, starting with other materials.
Okay.
Pure hydrogen, almost like the sun, that would give you too much field.
Oh, okay.
So it verifies, it underscores the biblical account and the timing
Absolutely.
of creation.
It all points us back to the Bible, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And then you have a book
Yes.
called Earth's Mysterious Magnetism and that of other celestial orbs. So you first look at Earth's magnetic field, and then you move out into the cosmos, into our solar system, and look at some of these other planets in great detail. You're such a strong model for creation and biblical truths. So thank you again for being here with us today, and we're going to have you back on a future program.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You know, as we've seen, good science confirms the biblical record over and over again, and the things we see around us could have never formed by way of random chance, as evolutionists would have us believe. They were carefully designed by a loving Creator in the beginning. But who was that Creator? You know, the book of John tells us that it's Jesus Christ. In the beginning, He made everything just right, and then mankind sinned and messed everything up. But He had a plan for that as well. He came to earth, and on the cross, He paid that penalty for our sins. By way of His amazing grace, He's in the process of restoring things back to perfection, and He offers eternal life to those who call on Him. I'm David Rives, and until next time, I want you to keep looking up. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God. Hello, I'm David Rives, host of the TV show Creation in the 21st Century on TBN and the Heavens Declare video series. Each week we talk about breaking discoveries in science which reveal that our Creator, the God of the Bible, has left a pattern of His fingerprints throughout the universe. Engage with other like-minded believers through the Creation Club. This website offers thousands of articles written by scores of authors in multiple languages. Sign up to get our free monthly magazine delivered to your door. Want more? Genesis Science Network is our free 24/7 TV network, reaching millions of people around the world on internet, Roku, Fire TV, and mobile devices. Shop over 1,000 books and videos on the Creation Superstore, the world's largest origins-related store. Visit our Wonders of Creation Center and sign up for email updates to have encouraging articles sent straight to your inbox. Like us on Facebook for daily inspiration and education regarding science and the Bible.